5 o'clock. We're here tonight to discuss the pay scale that has been requested by Alderman Ken Dotson. We discussed this in time and never came up with a solution, but maybe tonight, this is a call meeting, so it possibly could be a voting meeting if necessary. I just want to start out by saying that approximately 8 months ago, we did a study from the University of Tennessee. Mr. Richard Stokes came to town and did a pay compensation study, and how that study comes to be, he takes every city in the state of Tennessee and he looks at the population and kind of puts us in the category with other cities that look comparable and familiar with the city of Livingston, and that's how he comes up with the numbers. Of course, he has all of those numbers. So he reported back to the board with the study, and I think even Mr. Stokes, if he was here tonight, would say that the city of Livingston probably couldn't afford that number. It was that great. But he definitely inclined to say that the city was behind the eight ball. So supervisors and myself got together and came up with another plan that was just a little bit under, but maybe reachable, that we could possibly afford. But it was going to have to take additional money in general fund and in every department to make this a realization to happen, but it was in reach. If you made cuts, if there was additional revenue brought into the general fund and things like that, it was reachable. So that's kind of where we are. The number across the board to go with the pay scale that we worked on across the board, it was an additional $167,581.70 for the general fund. Gas department was $43,788.03. Water fund $107,803.80, and the street aid being an additional $9,909. And that grand totals, but it's not fair to say, but I'll give you the number, is $329,082.53. And the reason I say it's not fair to say, because all the money doesn't come out of the same fund. So it would be inaccurate to say that's what it's going to cost. Yes, that's what it would cost the city of Livingston in all departments, not one. So that's kind of where we are. I know there's been some research done, and through with each alderman has talked about it. I'm sure has done their share of it. But so I guess I just want to go on record and say we have got a very, very unique staff with the city of Livingston, and we've got some long tenured employees that realistically you really just can't put a number with them. I didn't realize that until several years ago when I became the mayor of Livingston. To give, whether it's our street department, some plans to go out and build and complete a $1.4 million park, to continue to get sanitation picked up on a normal basis, or it is our water department that are having to look for leaks. And I'll use the analogy again, is if you turn these lights off in the conference room and you threw 5 pennies across this brown carpet and you ask them to find the water leak, that's what we're into. Same way, our gas department is as certified as you could be to Tennessee Regulatory Authority, as well as our fire department that is about to go through local fire training, additional fire training. Most of them are paramedics and water police. And I just, you know, public safety, nobody really wants to police unless something has happened to them. Or nobody really thinks about the fire department unless your house or car is on fire. Nobody wants to police until you want the police. And I commend all of these department heads. Most of these things they can do without it being engineered. And if it has to be engineered, they can take the plans and build whatever it takes. We have a city that provides services that are second to none. Second to none. I'll put our services up with any services across not only the Upper Cumberland, but with the state of Tennessee. And we are a city, like most cities, that are here to provide services. And I feel like that our record speaks for itself. We are in jeopardy of losing qualified, seasoned employees due to the pay that we currently got. And they've done a great job with what they have. But we have to be real and know that they have families to raise and things of that nature. And so I hope we take a look at this with a very cautious eye, keeping in mind that we are service oriented and also need to run it as frugal as we possibly can. I do believe before even the debate starts, I'll go on record saying I believe they deserve an increase. And we just got to find a way to get it done. So, for saying that, I'll yield my time over to Alderman Ken Dodson, because Ken's wanted this back on the agenda.
Yes.
Go ahead, Ken.
Well, as you said, we knew of this problem, and it kind of came highlighted to us a few months back, and we didn't really do anything to address it. We recognized it, let the folks know that we understood it, but we didn't really fix it. Maybe it band-aided it a little by putting in that $12 starting pay for folks or something, but it didn't address the real issue of losing employees to other communities and that sort of thing that I think we desperately need to address. And I'd like to say I've got the answer to the silver bullet tonight, but I don't. So that's why I'm requesting this, so we can hopefully talk about it and discuss it and come up with a way to prevent that from happening and do what's right and fair for the employees and for the town of Livingston. Because we do, like you say, we do need to do it in a frugal manner, but we've got these folks to look out for, and we sure don't want to be left in the ditch with them gone.
Sure.
Sorry, I don't have any more to add on that, but
Well, let's just go down the line, since we started to the left. Alderman Coleman.
Sure. Clearly, obviously, I'm very supportive of a pay scale across the board. But from what I've gathered just in the short time I've been involved, it seems like the majority of the immediate hemorrhaging is really in our public safety departments. Please don't interpret what I'm saying to mean that we're not in need of pay scale across the board. That's not what I'm saying. But on many occasions, in the couple months I've been here, we've talked about police turnover and issues with pay in the police department and in fire. Curtis, I guess I'm just going to ask a quick question.
Yes, sir.
When we talk about the MTAS assistance that they gave the group back some time ago. Was that done for here's what I think is the most recent. For example, I see that they've got a minimum, a mid, and a maximum for this line here at the top. Okay, so what about the minimum maximums for those down below it?
This is the one that we looked at however many months back.
Is this the one I should do?
Yeah, I think,
Okay, so,
Give that.
yeah,
so,
wrong.
let me give that to you back. I've got mine. I think everybody's got it,
Everybody
but
got
if
that?
not,
Well-
has everybody got a copy of it? So let me,
Okay,
what was
so-
your question?
I just wanted to clarify, what the pay scale MTS assistant
Yeah, that's
is
right.
approved with, so this is it. All right, so I
No,
guess
Kelly, to be.
this is what the supervisors and you
Yes,
deal with,
and we came up with that after that we
the MTS?
could not figure out exactly what the MTS, we just couldn't afford what they
Right.
recommended.
But MTS even, as it looks to me, for example, detective here, Christopher Gore, they've got just blanks across here. You know, the item right above it for detective, I guess that rate would apply to all detectives in the police department, right?
That's right.
These three.
Right.
Okay, well, what about a water plant operator number 2? See, they're just blanks here, so I'm not sure how did that imply that they felt like that
They
these?
lumped all of those into that, but I don't know.
That's-
You see what I'm saying?
that's
It's not, it's confusing. Did they address these other positions or only the ones that they have filled in information for
So we took that, Kelly,
and developed it?
and developed that, and I can't tell you guarantee this is what Mr. Stokes gave us, I know this is, I would think that, he identified and recognized every position.
But when you say that this was, MTS uses data from cities all across the state,
That's right.
I recognize that, and that's, I think, the way to do it. As I've had conversations with you, I feel like that we have to look at communities of similar size and similar makeup to Livingston. And, I think we have Sparta, we have Smithville, we have the benefits package from Cookville, we don't have the pay scale. One of the concerns I have is, if you look at an employee in the police department, for example, or the fire department, how do they, if you say, okay, here is the minimum for a detective, $14, the average is this figure, $20, and $22.50 is your maximum. How does an employee know how to go from 14 to 20 to 22? That's my concern. How do our employees know how to advance within a pay scale? All right, so with that in mind, I think we also asked for the Overton County pay scale. Okay, so I've got that and copies of that. Did you make copies for everybody for the Overton
No,
County?
but I can.
Well, I've got the Overton County, and I talked to them, and,
Can I answer one
Yeah,
thing?
yeah, yeah.
When you ask, the
how do
time
they move?
and position and rank, it goes by years of service. This is based on
It's
so
strictly,
can you make copies for everybody? I thought everybody had.
I think I brought it in.
Bill don't have one and. Okay. So what this is based on is, it's a 20-year top out.
Okay,
And so the supervisor, the thought of this, the supervisor, when they hired someone, based on their years of experience, they will have a guide to go by. And then, like I said, it's a 20-year top-out plan. So, and, I mean, you just simply do the math, what it would take to get them to that 20-year top-out plan. So it would go away, Kelly, from everybody in the city that would start out at $12 an hour. If you was more experienced, if you're a 10-year vet on the fire or police department, you've got, you can run a backhoe, you can,
Yeah, sure, of course, based on your qualifications, your experience, your background, your
And then,
certification, all that. I
and then
realize
it would
that.
be based on 20 years.
Yeah, okay. Well, that was just not in here, so I wasn't
Right.
sure I understood that.
Okay.
Because if I'm a garbage truck driver and I start at $14, I wanna know how to get to 20, how to get to
Yeah,
22.
so
So it's based on longevity.
Yeah, well, not only that, if you wanna move out of the pay scale,
You have
so
to-
if you wanna move up a
Advance,
position,
promotion.
then you can advance and promote within the pay scale. Now, no, that's not all in writing there,
Yeah.
but that was the gist behind it.
Right.
That each employee, but if an employee wanted to stay there,
Sure.
you know, if that's where you wanna be, then in 20 years, you'll top out at X amount.
Well, I think we have to have those additional documents that are the further steps of the pay scale that explain how you move within these ranges. You see what I'm saying? What Connie said that the county did is, you know, for each division, each department, they selected 4 counties of similar size to Overton County, and they got the pay scale information from those 4. They sat down as a group, and they determined what should an investigator in the sheriff's office starting base pay be, right? So they determined that. And then they've got this, I guess that's what you're explaining, Curtis, they've got a, you know, if you come in at it after 10 years of service, you can make that. She says the minimum is a 1% increase per year based on their current budget tax status. The minimum increase is at 1% a year. I guess that's what I'm hoping to get, is we can create something that kind of goes along.
Yeah, we don't
with
have
this.
that,
Yeah.
so, yeah, that have to be created. And I'll be happy to get Mr. Stokes back up here. Like I said, he's the one that originally done the study, if you don't care about to come back to Livingston and talk to us in about how we're gonna do it.
Yeah, I guess I'll just reiterate my point that I made before. I think having $12 entry rate across the board, regardless of your experience, your qualifications, your certification, to me is very short-sighted. And the way I understand our policy, you know, we as a group, or the board of mayor or a designee, is to examine the nature of the position, the classes, make such changes in the classification plan, periodically review the entire classification plan, recommend appropriate changes. Just to say everybody's gonna get $12 to start, to me, is just, I'm not satisfied with that.
I'll agree with that.
You know, we've got to recognize people for their years of service, their experience, their qualifications, what they bring to the job. I mean, clearly in my business, that's what we have to do.
Sure.
I just don't think we're there yet. I think this is step one of, my opinion is, this is a complex issue that's gonna require some time, and we gotta roll up our sleeves and dig into this, to do it right. Most of the, like Smithville and Sparta, you know, they've provided us with their pay rates for every employee and classes, et cetera. But there's a lot more detail associated with just beyond the rate. How do you move? I don't know. I'm willing to work hard and roll up my sleeves, because I think this is probably one of the most important issues that our city faces right now. But, it's just frustrating to know that we have a 5-year police officer with a certification that's making a little over $13, and we start them out at $12. And I'm not taking a thing away, please don't interpret, I'm not taking anything away from the value of a clerical role in the city government. But a policeman, in my opinion, shouldn't be making $4 or $5 less than somebody in the office, you know, that's doing a clerical position. I support clerical positions, we have them in my office, but, you know, you've got to recognize I think we have to have a pay scale that recognizes the level of risk, the level of dangers, the level of experience. I don't know. My initial thoughts.
Sure. Ron?
I want a pay scale, there's no doubt, okay? And I've said it, been quoted in the newspapers, you know, that I said it. I want to be fair all the way across the board. I want the policeman, the par, but I want the gas and the water department. If we need to, you know, if you've got a certificate, Greg Hart's a certified officer, and he starts out at a set rate, you know, we got the pay scale. He's already certified. We don't have to pay his way to school and non-certified. And correct me, Greg, I don't, you know, I don't mind to be correct. Then that man is more qualified than a basic non-certified, right? And he can go right into working or whatever. Same way, whoever's here with the gas and water, Billy Joe, and others, and Wayne. You hire somebody that's a backhoe certified, if he knows he's getting a certain amount and the pay scale's there, then that's what he's getting, right? And that's what he knows that he's gonna make. You know, an old saying was, when you're hard on, you know what you're making. But we've got people here 7 years that's making $1 more in the street and gas departments than somebody that's been here 6 months or a year. And you know, we need to balance all of you out. And I mean, I know I've got people against me in every department, but I want you to understand that I want to be part of all of you. I don't mean to leave nobody out. I may not agree with certain things, but y'all don't agree with me. That's fine. But let's be equal to all of you. You know, let's try to dig and get something for all of you to be able to work with. And I'd like to hear feedback, and if it's against me, that's fine. But what is some of your all's response? And if you want to make them, you know, tell us what you need. You know, that's what we're here. You know, I got elected, and the rest of these guys got elected by the voters. Some voted against us, and that's fine. But tell us, you know, I pinpointed in the last meeting and asked Eric Ramsey. I don't think Eric's here. He may be. I didn't recognize him. Eric. You know, and I didn't want people. I just wanted you've been here 7 years, okay? Now, and you're making what it's on here, but I can't think.
1375.
13. So he's 7 years. Now, if we hire somebody on that's making 12, 7 years, $1.75, what does that look like? That looks bad on the city here. But we've got to find the money to do it too. But finding the money and doing it and balancing out, you know, is two things that we've got to look at. You just understand and reply back. I mean, it's not a problem. Tell us.
Well, what I've heard here.
Well, hold on just a minute. We're gonna have that in just a minute.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
That's
Thank you.
I mean, that's what I've got to say.
Alderman Langford, do you?
First of all, I got a question. The $329,000 that's gonna make this work, how much money we got to apply to that?
Well, again, like and I gave you that
I
total.
know, but how much are we short?
Well, each department is short.
I
the
know,
amounts that
but
I
each
told you.
department's total, how much do we like making the 329?
It's not in.
We're not even close.
Yeah,
Okay, first of all, I think it takes every department to make it work. To be quite honest with you, I don't think there's one man that works for the city, one lady that works for the city is more important than the other, period. I've worked with most of them, I know all of them, and it takes all of it to work. In order to do a raise, you need to have money appropriated before you go out here to do it. You don't go borrow money to give raises. And I know, without a doubt, I'm not popular with some people, but I've tried not to lie to them, and until we get the money, I don't see how we can get it. And that's my opinion.
thank you, Alderman Langford. Thank you. Alderman Speck?
I sat on the county court probably 10 years ago or less, maybe more, and we had this same problem. But we started a pay scale, and we stuck by it, and we did the increases annually. And as far as still working fine, so. I mean, we can set BS all day, but we need to start this and go on, move forward. If we have to find the money, we know how we have to do that. What else you want me to say?
Yeah. Thank you, Alderman. Vice Mayor Winningham.
Well, when Mr. Stokes here, he told us some stuff, and evidently nobody paid any attention to him but me. But he said, after he did all this research and everything, he said, if you don't raise taxes at least 5 cents a year, you're gonna be in trouble. Well, going way back, we didn't raise them 5 cents a year. We'd wait and jump them up 40 cents or whatever, we jump them up. But if you raise your taxes a little, then you might not get in this money crunch that we're in right now. So nobody likes taxes, but you gotta have, as they always say, if you're gonna dance, you gotta pay the fiddler, and when it's time for us to pay the fiddler, we just gonna have to bite the bullet and raise our taxes, whatever we need to come up with the money, because money's the root of all evil. That's about all I've got to say about it, but we didn't pay attention to it.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Winningham. Is there anybody else from the council before I open it up to the supervisor?
At the, yes, if you don't care, at the time this one was developed,
That's right.
is it your belief that it was fair, equitable, and everything with the supervisors, and everybody was in agreement with it, and is that where this 329?
Yes, I spoke with every supervisor. I did not speak to everyone, I spoke to every supervisor, and they accounted for their men. And, this was very acceptable, and I think that, and let me say this, you know, our issues are not only with the police. We've got, great folks in other departments that are struggling as well. That if we're not careful, we're gonna lose them to a manufacturing or another private company. And it's folks that we need, and folks that are certified in certain areas that they could go to another city or a county and get a $4 or $5 an hour raise. And that's kind of where we are. And like I said, all the supervisors are out here. If I spoke out of turn, please come up and say that. But I have spoke to every supervisor here. They have seen this pay scale, and they are excited about it and hope that we can put it in play as soon as possible. Alderman Coleman?
Yeah, I have a question on when the supervisor, I can ask the supervisor, just curiosity, you've got a $13 minimum for heavy equipment, 18 for an average, and 21 for a maximum.
Mm-hmm.
What process did you all go through to come up with 13, 18, and 21?
Well,
that's what I want to know.
Okay.
Was there data from these other communities? Was it data from MTAS? Did you look at, how did we come up with these numbers so that we make certain that we're within a reasonable pay scale that's fair, that's equitable, that's comparable to communities of our size?
Okay, so, not to sound like a broken record, but when Mr. Stokes came up from the University of Tennessee MTS, he did a study that are cities that are comparable to us across the state of Tennessee. That's what he did. The number was very large, and it was a number that we simply could not afford. And so several supervisors and I got something that we could live with that was going in the right direction, and that's how we came up with the numbers. So we took his study and kind of made our own study, I guess.
Yeah, that's fine. I just don't have his studies.
Right. So, now, is there any supervisors out there that would like to address, the board? Any supervisors? Chief Etheridge?
I do, but I don't care to go last, so you all know me. And I'll kind of explain as we go through, it takes me a few minutes.
Chief?
This is in line with what the mayor's proposal is. And let me say too, and I said it before, say it again, that all of the supervisors and all of the city workers, I have the utmost respect for. When I first came here, I had no idea what the water department, gas, sewer, street, fire, well, I kind of knew a little bit about fire. I learned that our firemen save homes. I learned that street department people are out there doing everything from picking up the garbage, raking leaves, building streets, they built their park. Gas department the other night responded to a call for us, had put a bulletproof vest on him, but he turned the gas off for us. I don't know a lot about gas, but I know when we get the gas leaks, I'm way away. They're up there. But I just have great respect for them. But what I'm obviously doing as the police chief is I've got to be an advocate for my own department. So I want to talk to you because I'm basically here tonight because we face a crisis in the police department. The crisis is due to our long-serving officers leaving our department to go other places for pay. At the beginning of the year, I came before the council with a plea for help, because I could see what was coming if the pay issue was not addressed. We've lost 5 certified officers since this time last year. Some retired, and some left for higher wages to other departments. We lost some for just a few $1,000s more. I know that this is a touchy and it's a controversial subject. As chief of police, it is my duty to warn the council that if we cannot address our pay issues immediately, we're going to lose 3 or 4 more of our experienced and qualified officers who have served this town for many years. These are the people who have protected and served Livingston. They're the ones who oftentimes put themselves in harm's way. As part of the job that you know with law enforcement, that you may have to make the ultimate sacrifice. We pray that that doesn't happen, but we know that it can. Losing these dedicated officers will affect our public safety in Livingston. It's common sense. Losing trained officers with years of experience who already know our citizens, they know our community, and they know when something doesn't look right. They know what's expected of them, and they've been trained to deal with situations as they arise. Bringing in new officers from time to time and teaching them is a good thing. But without seasoned officers, it could put everyone at risk. Our employees are our best asset, and as I've said, that is for everyone in this room and the ones that aren't here. When someone's asking for a pay raise, I think it's important to say why we need a pay raise. Thanksgiving Day will be my 10-year anniversary as chief of police. When I took office, I was given a mandate. Clean up the drugs in our neighborhoods, make the town safer, be more community-oriented, and do outreach programs for our youth. I believe that we have excelled in that mandate. My officers have done a good job. We've reduced crime, we've cleaned up the neighborhoods, we've reduced burglaries by over half, and we've created many programs like our police camp for our youth. Now that's the crime side of things. But what we're here tonight to talk about is more the financial side of the equation. Mayor Hayes told me when I started, I would do more with less. I understood that very early on. I knew that the money was tight and that we needed to find ways to not be such a financial burden to the taxpayer. When I interviewed for the job as chief, I said then that the city could take care of the basics, the salaries, fuels, utilities, and maintenance, and that's a lot of money. Don't make any mistake. But I believe that we, as the police department, could use the drug fund to generate additional funds, not tax money, but to save the taxpayers' money and meet the needs of our department at the same time. In the last 10 years, I have not come before this council and asked for new funds for equipment or upgrades or anything. The only thing I've asked for is something for the employees. However, I realize that I have not done a good job in explaining why we have not asked for additional monies for assets and equipment and programs. A few months ago, I was, with all this talk of the pay, I was talking with a friend who's supportive of me in the police. And he said, absolutely, your officers deserve more money. He said, Greg, stop buying cars and building the training range. Stop all that stuff. And so I had to explain that we use the drug fund to purchase the vehicles, our equipment, our training facility, and all the other programs when we didn't use taxpayer money. I know every time I've been before the council, we've always talked about using the drug fund for our purchases. The newspaper's printed, and it says drug fund, but I don't think people really understand what the drug fund is. It's not taxpayer funds. The drug fund is money independently generated from enforcement efforts by the police department. The money comes in from drug fines, forfeitures, seizures, monies from drug dealers and criminals. In addition to these sources, we do have sales from surplus equipment. We've used these funds instead of taxpayer funds for our infrastructure. And I like to use the example of police cars because I think it's the easiest way to explain how the drug fund has worked for the city and the police department. The city used to buy 2 police cars every year, which is roughly $50,000, $25,000 a car to keep the fleet going. We've saved the city taxpayers that $50,000 a year for the last 10 years by purchasing cars from the drug fund. That's roughly $500,000 in taxpayer savings. We use the drug fund money instead of taxpayer money. Now, to be fair, we bought 1 car out of taxpayer funds in 2012. As to the surplus equipment that we've obtained, these items are basically a grant from the federal government. The equipment is free, like a grant. We're able to request equipment for specific projects and programs, and then the federal government tells me yes or no. The only cost involved is the transportation of going to the bases to get the items. We have approximately $5 million worth of equipment that's been awarded to the police department. The drug fund paid to get the equipment here. I first started looking at getting this equipment after our historic flood. Back then, the police department had no 4-wheel drive vehicles or equipment for disaster response. As time went on, I did more research and I found that we could obtain other equipment if we were to build a training facility and a shooting range. Everything from that program has been used by the police department for at least a year, following those guidelines. That's the government's rules, not mine. The only exceptions would be in case of emergencies. And after that year, we've been able to allow the other departments within city government to use the equipment for projects and programs. And I'm fairly confident that they will tell you that equipment has helped them in their duties. Central Park was built with a lot of that equipment. So without this federal program, the building of a training range, we wouldn't have the assets that we have now for public safety. I know I've been criticized for having a training facility. I'm really not sure why, because my job as chief is to be able to teach and train the officers to be the best they can be. We train for the day that we hope never comes, but know that it can. The best way that I know to explain it is using sports analogy. Our athletes go out and they practice, and they need a place to practice. And they practice so that they can be the best they can be. So when it counts, they have the best chance of winning. It's the same for us in emergency services. We want to train to win. So I've said all this to try to better explain to you council members and the public that we've not been out here using taxpayer funds for our other physical assets and infrastructure. To date, we've brought in over $1 million to the drug fund. This is the money we spent to build our infrastructure, our training, and our programs. I'm very proud to say that we've saved that taxpayer money and that we actually have something to show for it. I would also point out that since I took office, we brought in almost $500,000 to the general fund from our other court cases. In a police department, the number 1 expense is salary. Number 2, traditionally, is vehicles and equipment. Number 3 is training. Number 4 is our community policing programs. Through the use of the drug fund, we've took care of number 2, 3, and 4. I cannot use the drug fund for salary increases for my officers by law. If I could have, I would have already been proposing it. So what I am proposing for you tonight is a simple plan. Using the money that is in my current budgeted funds in the salary section, I'm asking to reallocate the funds to the officers. I looked at Mayor Hayes' proposal and adjusted my original ideas to fall in line with that pay scale, the one that you've got in front of you. I'm asking to increase the officers' salaries to the dollar amounts listed on your proposal. For long-term officers, it would go from mostly the ones in the 13, 15 range to 18. New officers with less experience would be from $12 to up to $14.50. Our new uncertified officers would get a pay increase. They're currently at 12, and they would go to $13.50, but that would not be until September of 2019. It also shows you a path, something we were talking about earlier, a path to the top-out pay over a period of 10 to 20 years based on their years of experience and service. As you can see, the initial cost for the pay increases for these officers would be $73,987 for 12 months. 6 months of this money would be $36,993.50. You will also see that I've separated myself out of this because I'm only asking you to take care of my officers and not me. So you're going to ask, where do we get $36,933.50? Attached, it's on the very last page, you will have a copy of the officers who have left the PD this year. These were replaced with new hires with less pay. That's the $12 an hour folks. As you can see, it's dollar for dollar for each person. That leaves me $45,177 in that salary line item that's in my budget now. I'm proposing to use these funds. I'm not asking for new money to make a pay that's a permanent increase for the officers. So then you ask, and rightfully so, where do we get the rest of the money? Captain Halfacre is leaving the department. So I'm proposing to take his salary, $41,704, to use for the pay for the remainder of the officers, that extra part. You can see the amounts. It's in the budget now, and there's no new money that I'm requesting. To cover the new officers and staff, I'm proposing to move a full-time dispatch position to a part-time position at $11 an hour with a maximum payout of $15,000. Taking this money into the current budget already allotted to the police department, we can fix the officers' pay now. The initial increase in pay is the hardest part. That's what we're sitting here talking about tonight. And by this proposal, I'm absorbing that initial part. We would be able, as I've said before, if you take this and do it now, skip a year and catch the money up to start going towards those pay caps. My plan does not include for the pay caps. It gets you to the initial bump. And I also don't want you to get me wrong that I don't want to lose these positions. It's going to be more work for me if you were to approve it, and it's more responsibility for my supervisors. However, the alternative is the loss of more and more certified officers to other agencies for that same few $1,000s more per officer. This is what's going to happen. I have another officer who just put in his notice 3 days ago to go to the Putnam County Sheriff's Department. That's that one that was making $13.50. I have a detective that interviewed for a job yesterday. The situation is real. I have officers struggling to make it. They don't want to leave. Bring them in here, they'll tell you they don't want to leave. But they have to have some relief. I cannot hire seasoned, experienced, certified officers for currently what we're paying. The 4 new uncertified officers that we hired in September are doing good. They want to learn, but this takes time. We hired them in September. At best, they're going to be on the road in April. The officers that I can be losing now, the best I can hope for is October. It's one thing to bring someone in new every so often, but we're looking at replacing more than half of our police department within the next 2 to 3 months. We cannot afford this kind of loss. It's dangerous, and it's also expensive. It costs a minimum of $10,000 to send one to the academy. We're spending $40,000 right now. The math is simple. Again, I know we're here over economics, but this is also about public safety and the officer safeties that are our employees. We are blessed to live where we do, but policing is dangerous and it's complicated. We have to keep up our certifications, our mandatory training classes, and we have to keep up with new laws. But our experienced officers bring to the table something that takes years to develop. They know our residents, They know our businesses. They know when things look out of place. And to be honest, they know what to do when it hits the fan. Saturday night was probably a good example of that. We responded to a domestic call on Cedar Street. When we got there, suspect had barricaded himself in the upstairs bedroom. We were told he had a firearm. That can be a very tedious moment. I can tell you because I was there. But our training kicked in. The seasoned officers were there. Took a little time, but the suspect went into custody without injury to the suspect or the police officers. We protected the public and we were capable of handling it ourselves. This is what your police department is at the moment, right now. That quality and experience will be gone if we're not careful. This is what I'm talking about. It's about public safety and our ability and our capabilities to respond and deal with these situations. We are not perfect. We make mistakes. But we believe that our record will speak for itself for what we've done. I need your help to keep the officers. The staff keeps asking me, what are we going to do when we lose more officers? The truth is, I do not know. This is why I'm here tonight asking for your help. I know there's an argument that you cannot do something for the police that you cannot do for the other city government groups. I respectfully disagree. You can and you have in the past. You purchased vehicles and equipment for the other departments because you saw a need and you fixed it. You don't have to purchase these things for the police department because we took that burden away. Another example, and respectfully, you made a decision to pay Buena Vista and Long Street. You made the right decision because that was a desperately needed area. You saw the problem and you fixed it. And what I'm asking for you tonight is to make a choice and vote to fix the officers' pay immediately so that we can keep the officers here who have done the work, who've cleaned up the town, risking their own lives at times to do it. I'm not asking for any new funds. I'm asking to use my existing funds, and that will take a chunk of that burden, that $300,000 that we were talking about. It's basically $100,000. But here is our need, because this is our process, it's our emergency, and I'm asking you to fix it.
Thank you, Chief. Anybody got any questions for the chief?
I do.
Yes, sir.
Chief, help me with some questions I have here. What I see here are your recommended pay rates per hour.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Help me understand how that is a pay scale. When I look at what MTAS and the supervisors work with the mayor to provide us to look at is a pay scale. When I look at police, we have a minimum, an average, and a maximum per classification.
Yes, sir.
This is a pay rate. So how do we solve this problem? I'm all about I'm all about helping you fix the problem. How do we fix this problem long term if we simply do something today that fixes it today on a pay rate? That is not a pay scale.
I understand.
So I don't understand
So
how
what-
fixing that with a pay rate change is gonna fix us long term.
What I think in the long-term solution, in each department is different in terms of how they go up through the ranks. So in the case of a patrolman, as a patrol officer goes up, typically a patrolman is a patrolman for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. They start to move up through the ranks, maybe approaching a corporal, a sergeant, detective, and the like. There are times that you have an outstanding officer down here who said, you know, he's just doing it great. And you have officers that over here, they're doing what they need to do. They're doing their job, and they're going home. How do you get, I see where you're going. What I proposed in here is to get it going.
I understand. And respectfully,
Yes.
what you've presented here is a change in pay rates today. And you've presented a plan to pay for it with existing funds, with
Yes.
no increases in taxes.
Yes, sir.
I respect that fully. I'm all about supporting that. However, I think it doesn't fully answer the long-term problem we have here. What I want to know is, let's just take an example. Let's look at, let's see, Sam Carpenter, okay? What's Sam Carpenter's role? Is he an officer?
He's a patrol officer, yes.
He's a patrol officer. So the pay scale says a police officer should start at a minimum of 13, average of 19, and a maximum of 22. He's been here 5 years, he's certified.
Yes, sir.
You're saying take him to 17.
Yes, sir.
Okay, this says go, if he's $13 is the minimum, 19 is the average. How did you come up with 17 when the average is 19 based on the pay scale that we were presented?
Because what I did, sir, was to look to see where I had the money that I could make the cuts to try to
To make it work within your budget?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but see, I'm all about fixing it, but if you want to do a pay scale that's across the board for all employees, and this is the tool, the model that we're given, your presentation doesn't fix it across the board. Okay? I'm all about these rates. It doesn't solve our problem long term. If we want to, if he's a certified officer, we don't pay the $10,000 to send him to the academy. He's been here 5 years. As I said, it's an embarrassment that he's making $13 and something. Well, we're saying that he should be making in the $19 range. I believe that. Well, why don't we fix it? Why don't we say, where does that employee fall in your pay scale? Should he be in the minimum, the average, or the high?
The way I did it for all of them across the board, I kind of looked and I tried to see what I could work with.
Right. To get it within your budget.
To do it within my budget.
But this is the pay scale.
Yes, sir. And it would have an increase, obviously, with that somewhere down the road.
I respect what you're doing, but I think you're shortchanging trying to stay within your budget. I respect that. But if you really want to take care of Sam Officer, according to the tasks that MTask and y'all have, this group has come up with, we're still short in Sam Carpenter. You see? Are we going to take every department and look at what their supervisors suggest they pay on an hourly rate? Or are we going to look at the pay scale?
Well, and like I've said, the pay scale is based on a 20-year top out pay. So I haven't done the math. It is designed though to where the supervisors can insert their employee as they see fit based on.
Right, and I respect that.
Yeah.
And I agree that you're gonna be able to cover this expense this year with your reduced staff. You said you're gonna pay for it partially with the loss of the captain,
And then
partially with taking a dispatcher to a part-time. How are you gonna solve that 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now?
Oh, I agree that there's more money down the road. I came up with this $100,000.
What I would like to see, excuse me for interrupting, what I would like to see this group come up with, and we may need some outside help with this, what is it gonna take for us, let's just take police, for example. Let's break that $300,000 number down per department. In order for us to get to even the average pay scale that y'all come up with, what's it gonna cost us to do that for the police department? Let's compare that number to what you come up with in terms of savings that got you to this place. How much short are we?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
But if we did that route looking long-term, would this solution not get us to save the officers that are on the fence and that are already interviewing and those sort of things? We wouldn't be moving backwards at the time we instituted this and how to reduce their pay, I don't think.
No, it
That's
would
a good
still
point.
go towards, you might be having to add, but what I'm saying is,
We're in no worse situation to enact what you're requesting today, but we could still look at this pay scale and get it corrected and everything else for that.
I think that's a good point. Yeah.
And Kelly, I can get you, I don't have those numbers.
It's really not about getting it for me.
Well,
It's about
well,
us making the right decision for a long-term pay scale.
but it is all about getting to the board too.
Yeah, exactly.
They
Right.
Make an accurate call.
Right.
So, these numbers that I, told you, that was with each department head, looking at their department and installing them in the proper place that they should be. That's where the numbers come. Now, there have not been a long-term, and I've got to put down here, each additional year, what it would cost, each department to get them topped out for 20 years. We can get that.
We say that the supervisors looked at the employee, getting them in the proper place that they should be.
That's right.
I guess I still go back to Mr. Carpenter. You're saying 17. This says average is 19. So you still think 17 is where he needs to be?
Oh, no. But what I'm saying is, what I did is I realized where we're at. I realized that I don't know what's gonna happen in the next few months.
What is it?
And so I tried to bring something here tonight because of the call to meeting, and I'm excited that all of you are paying attention to this. I mean, but I'm trying to come up with something that, this is better than a Band-Aid.
What does an officer do that would be similar to an employee within the sheriff's department? Would that be a deputy?
Typically, yes.
A typical deputy. So at the county, a deputy starts at $13.50 and he gets a 1% raise. After 30 years, he goes to $18.02.
After
Okay.
30 years?
Just-
Right.
Greg, this is good, okay, and then like I said, it's better than a Band-Aid. And I can see the money's there, okay, I'm not against that, and I'm not against this, what you worked up, to try to keep white officers and certified officers and others. My situation is this: if I vote to do this, then I'm depriving the other departments that have to get out in sub-zero temperatures, water, street, gas, fix water and gas leaks. Just the same as your department is out all hours of the night, at times some calls do, in sub-zero. A lot of times y'all are blocking the roads for them. I seen somebody blocking, well, I guess it was Jacob the other day blocking the road. You know, he was having to block the road for the departments. You know, sometimes while there's, you know, I mean, I don't want nobody to think I'm against this, and I see the point, but I want it fair all the way across the board. Okay?
And I respect that, and I respect all of y'all in here.
Yeah.
I do.
Does anybody got any more questions for the chief?
Yeah, I
There
do.
may be, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I might be here all night. Sorry. Detective Chris Gore, for example, okay? The pay scale, you've suggested $18 an hour.
Yes,
The
sir.
pay scale says 14 minimum, 20 average, 22.50. So you have decided that 18, as opposed to taking him to 20, is okay for now because you can do that within your existing budget. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Well, I think we gotta come up with a way to figure out how we're gonna pay for the pay scale. I mean, I respect what you're saying in terms of stopping the hemorrhaging immediately with this pay rate, but that's not a pay scale.
Are you gonna replace the captain?
Under this plan,
You shouldn't have to be in that situation. You shouldn't have to say, I'm gonna lose a captain so I can pay for this pay rate.
I've got a couple of my guys sitting here, they'll tell you if you ask them, we're about to lose, we're gonna be in trouble.
Okay, well, how much is it gonna cost us to go, I mean, this is simple math, to go to the minimum and the averages and the pay scale with your department?
It's probably an additional, off the top of my head, probably $20,000, $25,000.
No, I think it's gonna be a lot more than that.
To get to the 19s and the 20s?
Yeah, I think to get to the average hourly with your staff, I think we need to put the pencil in
Yeah, so I don't have that number.
there. I thought maybe he might.
Okay.
Yeah.
The general fund, of course, that's the general fund.
Curtis, Mayor, that does not state, is that the minimum, the average, or the maximum?
Yeah.
167,000 for the general fund increase. 167,000 general fund.
That's right.
Is that to get us to the minimum, the average, or the maximum?
That, you know, it does answer the question. What I said earlier is that puts each employee in the category that their supervisor has already told me where they need to be in the pay scale. So yes, that $167,000, if I went to Mr. Peak, that is here right now, that, is street foreman, and given his street foreman, which is Mr. Dixon, sitting right there beside of him, it puts him in the correct pay scale, and we've added it into that, and that gives you all of those numbers. Each supervisor has done that.
Okay, got it.
Each supervisor.
Right.
We just don't have that individualized list of each.
That's right.
Yes, and
No,
we
no,
don't have that.
I mean, but
it's there.
there's nothing like.
Well, I was
the
just
present if
asking,
we
how much
want
does
to.
it cost the police department
Okay.
to go to, I mean, that was my question.
I understand.
Police, how much does it cost to your department to go to the pay scale?
Right. I did not do each individual department, I did the funds.
Well, I think we need to start looking at the departments that have the majority. I mean, if we've got a department that's in, you know, a catastrophe, we gotta fix that leak. So what's it gonna cost us to get you a pay scale today? The county government looked at each department individually. Connie says they took each department, they went one by one. They fixed A, they went to B, they studied it, they fixed B, on down the line. Why can't we look at it that way?
We can.
Yeah, so I wanna know what it would cost us to get a pay scale implemented for police.
If, are you waiting on an answer?
Now, we finished.
If we were to vote tonight to institute this pay scale that all departments reportedly agree to, would that fix your immediate problem too, or would you do this and then start the pay scale? And how,
If, what my concern is I've said, losing quickly in the next, I don't know when you're talking about, if you're talking about, I'm assuming passing the pay scale effective July 1, or you're talking about affecting the pay scale as of whenever. I understand that's an issue.
yeah.
That's why I went back to this, saying, help me now, and it won't be as big a burden on you down the road.
If this passed tonight, your paid rate change, and this didn't change but passed 3 or 6 months from now, these would all still fall within those
Yes.
ranges. Thank you.
And this is on 20 years, right?
Yes.
Is this a consideration for us?
So you're talking about Sam Carpenter, has been there 5 years. And he's making what now? $13.
$13.15.
What kind
But he's been there 5, and you're wanting to do 17. So that would be, I mean, this goes each year, it's,
Right.
that would be right on that, right?
Yes, it would. Sure would.
Right?
Wait, help me understand that.
Okay, so each year.
Clearly, I'm not seeing it that way.
So this is day
The minimum,
and then this is how many years down the road?
it doesn't say.
Well, I mean.
You do the
try to be
math.
half of 20.
That's right.
Well,
That's right.
It's not half, it's 10, yeah, so 10 years.
Okay, so you're saying
So
start,
in 10 years, he'll be at, on police, he'll be at 19, but
Right.
he's only been there 5
Right. That's right.
right now. So he's wanting to be at 17, so another 5 years.
does that recognize if he's certified or non-certified? What his years of service were beforehand?
Well, I mean, some, yeah.
I think
So,
maybe.
so I don't think the chief is gonna come in and ask a non-certified officer to come into the 10-year range. And I agree, Kelly, maybe there needs to be a few more things in writing, but I mean, some of this, we just gotta know. I don't think that, any of our supervisors is gonna bring any non-experienced employee and insert them in the midway to the.
Right, and
I mentioned,
So, hold on just a minute, Chief. So I think some numbers that are missing that I will work on coding is exactly what their pay increase would be to fit in this pay range. So what you will have is something that you've never had here in the city. So if this pay scale passes one day, okay, then depending on where you are at in this pay scale, would, on your way to a 20-year career with the city of Livingston, each employee's pay raise would be different, depending on their classification of an employment. So you basically plug that in for 20 years to get them there.
Which is exactly what the county.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
In that and maybe
They have
it's my
every-
mistake, in that last column there, that $832 in Sam's case, as we're talking about Sam, he would get, in theory, $832 every year for 10 years. The difference in the pay would be, if he was still a patrolman, he would make $45,760. If he
Right.
was a supervisor or mid-range supervisor, it would be $46,800. If he was a
Right.
detective, it's a couple of $1,000 more. I think maybe.
Yeah, other classifications.
That's how you got there by staying,
Right.
and if you moved up, you got a little
Little
more to
more.
your top out.
was this
I
the,
get that.
was this the pay scale that you presented to the last Alderman?
Yes.
And that raise was how much? I know we had the.
They got a
pay-
50-cent raise is what.
I know, no, I know that, that's what these two Aldermen voted for. What was this gonna increase? Cause there was an amount, cause we were gonna do so much for paving and so much for
Yeah,
paving.
what
Yeah.
was the tax?
What was that?
The
What was
tax
that number?
increase
Uh,
to pay for this, how much tax was this?
what
Was it 20?
was it I said? 44 cents? 44 cents?
Well, that was partly for.
That was.
That was
pay-
included.
Oh, yeah, that was everything.
So
What was the
what
portion for the pay scale?
I won't say 22 cents, something like that.
I think it was 20
So
something.
this is 21 or 22 cents.
That's right. I think that's right.
When we did this county court, our raise tax was 27 cents.
Okay.
But they make 33,000, we're way on that 7,500. Big difference.
On a penny.
Okay.
So there's just a step missing. This is the pay scale.
Yes, sir.
This is a spreadsheet that shows what each classification starts out after year 1, 10, and whatever.
That's not in place.
I think we're talking about two different issues. We're talking about a hemorrhaging problem at the police department that can be fixed tonight with
No increase.
Within the budget.
Within the budget.
and we're talking about a pay scale.
Yes, sir.
These are two separate issues in my opinion.
And this can't be voted on now because we can't change the budget right
That's
now.
right.
That's something we've got to do.
That's right.
Doing the budget.
That's right.
I don't want to be unfair to everybody else though.
That's what I said, if we vote on this tonight, what's this street and water and gas department, yes?
They'll
Well,
have
do
to-
they have, maybe they found it within their budget to pay for
this
a pay
has to
scale
be
increase.
a budget.
Have they? Has there been, have the supervisors of the departments looked at that, so they can make their pay scale within their?
No, I think that, all the supervisors, we meet every Monday. And I know like Mr. Pete, we had a supervisors, management meeting today, he like had 3 or 4 men. You know, so I think they're doing the best they can with what equipment and what men they've got. But if any supervisor out there can tell us that you'd like to do away with 20% or 2 men or this and that, please let me know, because nobody's ever brought that to my attention, during a meeting that we have every Monday morning. So I assume, and like I said, in a management meeting we had the other day with all supervisors present, I know that Wayne would like to have 2, 3, 4 men, but we're doing what we can afford, and so to ask them to cut, we can't cut anymore.
Well,
I mean, we're running a bare bones budget here.
Greg has presented a plan that does more with less. And I think if other departments can stay within their budget and do that with less, then so be it. If not, then we will take it up as far as the pay scale to get that increase at the next time. of
Budget time.
I don't see that it's doing the others a disservice by honoring what Greg has found a way to do more with less in his department. That's just the way I look at it.
Yeah.
If they can, they can bring it before us. and whatever.
Right.
But our hands are tied on this.
Yes, sir.
Without a budget amendment, we can't do this.
That's right.
Well, how many men are you short? Are you short?
Short,
Yeah.
no, I'm full staff besides keeping the man in the garage all the time.
Okay. The jury's not here, who's with Gas? Eric, are y'all short any, are you short any?
Judge's not here.
Are you short, or is the gas department short any?
No, we're not.
Fire department, Rocky, are you short?
No, not
Right,
right
those
now.
guys?
We're short one whenever I come here.
That's gas, water.
Water.
Well, either taxes, attrition, or finding it internally in other ways to come up with the money.
Well, if you don't raise taxes and you have, give a 50-cent raise, insurance still goes up, cost of living, all the supplies, all that goes up, and that's been going up, and y'all haven't been raising taxes. Now you're in a pickle.
Sure.
So,
We're in a
you can blame the Alderman before that voted
Well,
against it.
You voted against it.
Well, and another thing too is we need businesses in here to bring more money in too, you know, that would help out on the budget wise too, working on the budget. You know, we got Tractor Supply come in, now, thank God Winningham's built back. You know, and we got other businesses, we need to get businesses in here too, that would generate revenue for the city.
Yes. I understand that one of the aldermen ran a business off because they pitched a big fit, and all that good stuff, I won't name any names. But, I mean, you want businesses, you gotta act professionally.
Business-friendly
And
environment.
business friendly, and quit pissing them off and running them off. They went up into Kentucky.
Is there any other supervisors that'd like to address? Is there any employees that would like to? Go ahead, chief.
You know, you've been talking about the man that's been here 5 years and 7 years. I've got a man here that's been here almost 20 years, making $15 or something in there.
Who is that?
Jamie Lynn.
Jamie Ledford?
Almost 20 years. You know, I had extra money last year, the year before my budget, and I come and asked the board to let me do that. I was told no. Told Alderman Leonard that time, I said, we gotta do it now, because if we don't, the budget's gonna pass and my money's gonna be gone. And it was gone. So my money for all this, over the years, has been depleted. I mean, I went from having guys with 15, 20 years experience down to, I've got two now. Me and James have got over 10 years. Everybody else has got 2 and 3 years experience. And I'm gonna tell you, boys, when you go from having men that you don't have to worry about knowing what to do, to worry about, are they gonna be able to make that truck pump? What are they gonna do if they have an issue? You know, it was hard for me to go on vacation because if something happened, I worried about it. And we've got to fix this issue somehow or another. I mean, we sit here and talk about raising taxes. I live in town. I pay city taxes. I don't want my taxes to go up. But I know over the years, everything goes up. You know, cars, 10 years ago, you could buy a good set of cars, sell $800. They're $1,500 now. But our pay is staying the same. And like, I'm not asking for my money. These guys back here are the ones that need the money.
But you support this?
What's,
This pay scale?
Pay scale.
yes, the one that the mayor went over with, yes. I mean, I talked to my
And
man about it.
that would fix your issue that you're talking about as well.
Yeah, you know, and I discussed it all with him, in length the other day, and told him, said, you'll start out at this. I mean, I've got 2 guys right now still making $12 an hour.
I just wanna look at this example. Jamie what's his role at the fire department?
He's captain.
He's the captain. So the captain, 13, 19, and 22, he's at 15. So would he fall in that 13 to 9? I mean, he's been here 20 years, so he'd be
He'd
more
top
up in the
out.
22.
Yeah, be top.
Yeah. Well, see, that's what we're talking about, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
If we look at Sparta, look at Smithville. That's where they are.
That's right.
And they're comparable cities with comparable populations.
Right.
Can you tell me why we don't have a pay scale?
Why do we not have a pay scale?
I can't answer that for me. We talked about it and it just didn't get done. That's all I can say.
I wanna know what it's gonna cost us. Why can't we do a budget amendment and fix this problem?
Guys, we're tickled up with the 50 cents a year,
Come to the podium.
but when we get 50 cents a year and our insurance goes up, we're right back where we was at. I mean, there's nothing, our insurance takes the 50-cent raise, and we're right back to where we're at. I'm on my 28th year, be 29 in August. And, I mean, I love working for the city, don't get me wrong, but, I mean, it's, you know, we've got guys on our crew that's $12, $13 an hour, and they got families raised. And I mean, you all know raising kids ain't cheap,
That's right.
so I mean,
Steve Smith is on the gas department, he's the assistant foreman, so that's, you can see where he.
Okay, so that's
Foreman
foreman two,
Yeah.
so he'll be at 22,
That's right.
and what's his right now, what's your rate?
19 or 18, something like
Okay,
that.
so it's, let me ask y'all a question. Pay rate is important. Obviously, that's the most important component of your benefit. What about vacations? The city of Livingston has 15 paid vacation days. No, excuse me, paid holidays. Cookville has 10. Now, the county has 14 or 15. Do you feel like that the city is equitable and fair in terms of your benefits? I think you get 1 sick day a month. You get, your vacations, I think, are really good, and you get 15 paid holidays a year. Any complaints about that across the board? No. I think those are great benefits. My employees don't think that.
Sure.
I think that has to be considered.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Is there any other employee like to address the board? Okay. Board members?
I wanna thank all the employees that's sitting back there for coming out tonight. I respect you for doing that. Did you say anything or not? That knows that you are interested in what's going on, not just being an employee. Okay? Appreciate it.
They ain't just, it ain't just the fire and the police that's talking about quitting. There's down there at City Garage, there's 2 or 3 down there that if they can find another job tomorrow, they be gone. And you ain't gonna replace somebody that can fix a water leak like some of the people that's down there that can quit by hiring men off the street. I mean,
I brought that up earlier here. Thank you for reiterating.
just,
That's my point, Eric,
Thank you.
raising all the salaries.
That's so frustrating. Why did you vote no if you wanted to do this? If you really believe
I wanna know where the money's coming from.
it's tax increases and you were given that option?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just go down the line. Alderman Langford, we'll start with you if we need to. If nobody else is wishing to address the board, Alderman Langford, I'll start with you and we'll go around before we adjourn or whatever business we got left.
Well, I've sat here and heard everybody's comments and everything, and I'm with you. I mean, it's hard to do, but it's also hard for me to turn around and vote and promise you something I don't have. As right now, the city of Livingston don't have it. We're gonna, like we said, gonna have to increase the taxes, what, 22%?
21 cents.
21 cents? Okay, and I mean, if we had had a good year and had excess of money and everything, I'd have said distribute it out. But we ain't had a good year. I mean, we've had a lot of things that hit us. We don't have the big bank account right now. I understand these folks' problems, I really do. And, you know, hey, I know stuff is expensive, but it's hard for me to sit here and promise you something when I don't have it.
Thank you, Alderman Langford, all respect.
Well, when you don't have it and you're running the government, you have to go get it, but you're reaching there and grabbing. Now, if these departments will wait, I won't vote, but I'm gonna vote that we have a pay scale, and we need one. Government don't have a pay scale, it's crazy. That's plumb crazy. You gotta have one. People need to know when they're coming in, what they're gonna make, what they're gonna be now when they're, 10 years down the road, 15, and then look at 20. If you don't have that, I wouldn't even want the job, and I know everybody needs a job, and you have to get it where you can. So if you'll hold on to that, I'm one vote, but I'm for pay increase, pay scale, and I will be voting on that when it comes up. Now, on Greg's issue, I'd like to make a motion that we accept his paperwork here and put it in action. That's one motion. Now, I may have to wait on that motion.
Well, I was gonna go all the way around the table, but if you're putting that. Okay, you've got a motion on the table, that's what you,
Yeah,
you're gonna either withdraw it or leave it.
I'm gonna leave it.
Okay, so there is a motion on the table by Alderman Speck.
This is no new money, it's wrong, you can calm down.
So we can, on the pay scale that Chief Etheridge brought to the table.
Pay rate.
Pay rate, that's right.
That's not, yeah.
Let's pay rate. Motion made by Alderman Speck. Is there a second?
I'd like to second that, please.
Second by Vice Mayor Bill Winningham. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Alderman Cole.
Okay, so here's a spreadsheet that all y'all have of every employee by department. Greg, do you mind, and every supervisor, go through this spreadsheet and put in this column the proposed pay scale based on one of these two columns, or one of these three columns, the minimum, the average, or the high.
Okay.
And then we can take that and Phyllis, we can figure out what that's gonna cost us.
No
Because
problem.
right here, we got three different columns with three different rates.
Right.
So, okay.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
Again, let me say this again. If they hold true to what they say, and I have no doubt that they will, then they know exactly how to plug those numbers in.
But I'd like to
And I'll
see what
get
they
you
are per
individual.
employee.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so any more discussion? We got a motion and a second. Roll call vote, Ms. Phillips.
Alderman Dishman,
No.
Alderman Dodson,
Yes.
Alderman Langford,
No.
Alderman Speck,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Winningham,
Yes.
Alderman Coleman,
Yes.
motion passed.
Motion passed. Okay, we'll go back around the table. Vice Mayor Winningham, you got anything to add?
I'm just, like said, we're gonna have to raise taxes somewhere. You gotta have money, pay the fillers.
Alderman Dodson?
How long has it been since there was a tax increase, and how great was it?
I think we did a 9-cent, property tax increase about 4 years ago. I think so. About 4 years.
And the question was asked earlier, what does it take to get a budget amendment done and to do what we need to do to get moving
Well,
on this, so that we're not depriving, as Ronald says, these other departments?
okay,
Right.
so, I mean, it's all about money.
I understand.
So either, as Kelly has said, either you cut to get to the number you want, or you find other means of revenue, okay? Now, if you do an amendment, it's late in the game, for taxes to be increased. Now, I'm not saying that it can't happen, I need to talk to the state and some other folks to see if that can properly happen, for that amendment, because that amendment comes in, because we'll be sending out taxes, then send them out. So it may very well be.
If I was you folks, I'd just go ahead and do a budget amendment tonight, take care of these other folks.
You can, it's too late.
So, I think it is too late, but that answers your
Yeah,
question.
we have to be within the bounds of the law.
Yeah, that's
Right.
right.
I
That's
think
right.
there's laws that
That's right.
state
So-
the requirements.
Do not. Alderman Coleman.
I'm just discouraged in this spot, frankly. This is, I mean, it's like they said I read in the newspaper right after the election, we're just gonna leave it, we're gonna kick the can down the road and leave it for the new alderman. So here we are. If I vote for I'm gonna vote for a pay scale, and if the citizens don't like my vote, they don't have to elect me again. But I'm gonna do what I think is right. Don't worry about it.
Thank you, Alderman Coleman. Alderman Dishman.
No. I don't have nothing else.
Yeah.
I'm for all these other guys too.
Yeah.
Well, we're all for it, Ron. If
We
we
all
could
are.
fix it tonight, we would. I want them to know that if within your department, if you wanna come up with a plan like Chief Ethics has, please present it to us, because I want to help how we can too, but understand that our hands are tied tonight as far as the budget goes, that we can't do that. But I'm ready, I am, I'm sitting on ready.
Can we have another, pay scale work session ASAP to come follow back up, to find out what we've learned from the state, to see what our
Yeah,
guidelines are? Let's have another call meeting as soon as possible so that we can find out what we can and cannot do based on the law.
Okay, let me,
I'll drop this again.
Yeah, we don't wanna wait till budget time.
What about, well, is everybody gonna be in town next week, or, I know it's, I think November 27th will give everybody proper notice, as far as the Open Meetings Act, so, that should, give me adequate time to make some phone calls to the state and things of that nature. November 27th at 5 o'clock.
Would we need to get Greg, or what's his name?
Warren,
No,
Richard?
the accountant.
Joe Parks.
Joel Hall.
Oh, well, we did.
I wonder if that would be needed.
Well, if he can't make it, maybe he can do a conference. So.
And in the
but
meantime,
that'll give us time.
in the
to put
meantime,
everybody
can we
in
get these,
shape. Absolutely.
let's fill in the blanks on this spreadsheet, and then maybe Phyllis, you can work on what it's gonna cost by department based on what the supervisors have said for each employee.
Yeah,
And we'll have a little more information.
Absolutely.
Would it be, how do the supervisors feel about this? Do they feel shortchanged? Do they feel like we're trying to do our best to get through this? How do you feel?
And like Ron said, it's too late now. Here's the thing, our employees need a direction to go on this. I mean, you know, we've been dealing with this for years, and it's always, let's fix a little now, and then we'll get back to you. And it's never got back to us. I mean, I'm glad Greg got his, he needs it, but we've been struggling with this for years, and it's all, we'll get back to it. And like Chris said, it's, and Kelly said, let's put it off on the new Alderman. It just keeps getting put off and put off and put off. You know, if you're gonna do it, let's get something together and let's go with it. If not, just tell us so our guys can.
But you do understand that we didn't allocate any new money to Greg's department,
I understand
nor did
that.
we do anything that we couldn't do.
I understand that.
I just wanna make sure.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm glad you got it. He
It's not in
needs
the
it.
current budget.
I understand that. But, you know, this has been going on for years. We'll fix it. We'll have another meeting. Yep, that meeting, same thing. Next meeting, same thing. It's been going on
But
for
you
years.
understand what we're saying is by law, we can't.
I understand that.
This new alderman, this board of aldermen, it's a new board of aldermen, was given a budget.
I understand that.
And
I
so,
understand that,
you know,
but we need
we're
to
trying to
get
figure out how we
something
can
that's
make sure
going. I mean, you know, these guys are all here, and it's not one department, it's every department. They keep
I
looking
think
at
we're all in agreement on that, that's why we're coming back again, and I think
Okay.
November 27th.
Okay.
I mean, we get something that says, hey, we're gonna do this budget time, I bet everybody will be happy. But it just keeps being put off and put off, I mean, the guys are gonna continue to leave. And I mean, I can't say that I blame them, I mean, the last two I lost, they went to work for other places, making $3 or $4 more on an hour. These guys have been here 5 and 6 years.
I can give you my voice like Chris did, my vote's yes when it comes, and I'll be ready.
My vote is yes.
That's all we need, is give them a direction, so these guys know that you at least make an effort, it's not just keep being put off year after year after year. like
Do you
it has
have
been.
confidence that we're gonna do something about it?
You are sitting here tonight telling me, you have never lied to me, so yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing further, I need a motion to adjourn.
Any more feedback?
Sorry.
And I don't know about all the July 1 stuff, but could you not go ahead and vote on it tonight? And then whenever it comes time next year, raise the taxes, do what you need to do. That way we know that it's done in, set in motion, and we've got something to look forward to. That way it will probably save a few people from leaving if they know that they was gonna be getting.
We're having another meeting this time next week, and we're having the people from MTS to come in
I
and
don't,
explain.
Let's do that, let's do
I'd like to
that.
make a motion.
We're gonna change up here.
That we adopt this pay scale effective July 1.
okay. And then you'll stand up to me, put it in the budget and go. from
Yeah,
there.
and in the meantime, we're gonna try to figure out if we can implement it before then.
If we can find a way to amend it and make it work for him, but tonight I'm making a motion that we adopt this proposed pay scale effective July 1.
Okay.
I second.
Motion made by Alderman Ken Dodson, second by Alderman Kelly Coleman. Is there any discussion? Roll call, Ms. Phillips.
Alderman Dodson.
Yes.
Alderman Langford.
No.
Alderman Speck.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lincoln.
Yes.
Alderman Coleman.
Yes.
Alderman Eastman.
I have to abstain, I won't put any question where the money's at.
Motion passes. Is there anything else, board members?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Ken
Second.
Dodson, second by Kelly Coleman. All for the motion, let it know, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign, we're adjourned.